And we are back live at E3 in the PlayStation booth, and I brought along an industry veteran to show off his new game. That veteran is Warren Spector, creative director of Junction Point Studios, and he's here to show us Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of Two on PlayStation Move. Welcome, Warren.
Thanks, great to be here.
You're a veteran game designer, behind one of the guys behind some of my favorites in the entire industry. But I wanted to get you in here today because this is the first time we've had Disney's Epic Mickey on a PlayStation platform with PlayStation Move, no less.
Yeah, you know, we've been waiting a while to bring Mickey back to Sony, and here he is now in the world of Wasteland, world of forgotten and rejected characters, reminding people about how heroic he can be, how mischievous he can be, and putting you in control of the experience. That's what it's all about, players deciding how to interact with the world.
So for those of us who missed the first Epic Mickey, can you get us up to speed briefly on where the story takes us and where it leaves off for this game?
Yeah, Mickey appears one day, he's dragged into a world called Wasteland, where all of Disney's forgotten and rejected concepts, characters, theme park attractions go when their time in our world is past. And the world is threatened by a creature called the Blot, which Mickey himself accidentally created. So he has to save the world from this monster, which of course he does in the first game. He leaves the world, goes back to his home in Cartoon World, and everything seems great, but then some trouble starts again, and it's time to bring Mickey back to Wasteland to save Wasteland once again.
So let's talk about Mickey and the abilities he has and how that ties into PlayStation Move.
Well, the key thing, you'll notice he has a paintbrush in his hand. And that's, as soon as you start talking about, let's let Mickey use paint to draw things in the world, your hand automatically, I guess the sound guy's loving me right now, you automatically start moving your hand around as if you're holding a brush yourself. So having something like the Move controls is perfect because it's a direct analog of what we're trying to do in the game. You're doing what Mickey is doing. And when you start drawing things and erasing things with it, the game really comes to life because of the Move.
Now, another thing that jumped out at me about this game is that it has co-op. Co-op's a big part of the game, and the co-op partner, why don't you tell us a bit about who this character is?
As important as it was to me to remind the world about Mickey's heroism and Mickey as an adventurer, there's another character from Disney's past named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. First cartoon star Walt Disney ever created. But in 1928, Walt lost the rights to Oswald in a contract dispute, and it wasn't until 2006 that he got the rights back. Disney got the rights to Oswald back in 2006. Get this, they did it by trading Al Michaels, a human sportscaster who worked for ABC, to the people who owned the rights to Oswald. So Al Michaels, a human being, was traded for the rights to a cartoon rabbit. And that's the only reason we got to make him the sort of co-star of our games here.
So, I mean, you know, you're very, very well versed in cartoon history, cartoon lore. You did a master's dissertation or a PhD dissertation on cartoons, right?
Hard to believe they'll give a degree for anything nowadays. Huh?
So you're an expert here. What's it like for you to have such a sort of a guiding hand in defining a character like Oswald?
It's unbelievable. I mean, when Disney asked me if I was interested in doing a Mickey Mouse game, I was actually doing some really cool stuff with some people I can't name out here in Hollywood, and I had no choice. I had to walk away from that because how often do you get offered the opportunity to work with the most recognizable icon in the world, which Mickey clearly is. I mean, every human you'll ever meet has a relationship with this character. So the opportunity to help him take the next step in video game stardom, I could not pass that up, and it's been a real honor.
And now compared to Mickey, I mean, what's Oswald bring to the table? I mean, Mickey has the magic paintbrush. What is Oswald, how does he interact?
Well, he's a different kind of character. He's a little more naive, I guess, and he's a little sort of simpler, and he gets angry a lot quicker, you know. He's more mischievous, and he has a completely unique set of abilities. I mean, he can use electricity to charge up electrical things and reprogram robots, and he can remove his arm and use it as we call it a boom armorang, the boomerang effect. He can use his ears like helicopter blades and fly to places that Mickey can't get. So he has this complementary skill set, and when he and Mickey work together, magic happens. It's amazing.
That's awesome. So, obviously the first game took us kind of on a tour of certain parts of Disney history. How are you expanding that? Oh, actually, let's talk about this really quick. Here's the 2D
timing.
side-scrolling, and here we go. Here's co-op.
Yeah.
Drop
so
in, drop out.
There are two huge things going on here on the screen. First of all, this is a level that's inspired by a 1937 cartoon called The Old Mill. If you're familiar with that cartoon, you recognize every single thing in this level. The entire game, everything you see was inspired by Disney history. So you can play the Where Did That Come From game. But Oswald is with you every step of the way. Even in single player, his AI is good for helping you out. Like right there, you can see Mickey grabbing onto his ankles and going along for a ride. But now there's a golden ticket up at the top here that's too high for Mickey to reach unless Oswald throws him up there. So even in single player, Oswald is there every step of the way, helping Mickey to accomplish his goals. And when a second player jumps in, things get really crazy, because then Oswald can use his abilities everywhere in the game and do really amazing things.
Oh, that's great. So, so back to what I was asking before, like what other, the tour of this sort of Disney lore, I think is such an interesting part of the game. What are some of the other eras of Disney or elements of Disney that we're going to see here in Epic Mickey 2?
Well, in this game, we're taking you to places like, we call it Mean Street, which is the wasteland version of Main Street, USA. We're taking you to Ventureland, which is our version of Adventureland. And the newest thing, the coolest thing we're introducing is a place called the Disney Gulch, which is inspired by Frontierland, one of the oldest and earliest places that appeared at Disneyland starting in 1955. So it's changed a little bit. This is the rejected version, all the stuff that's no longer there. So it's almost a trip through Disney's history and see Frontierland the way it was, 70 years ago.
Sort of the shadows of Disney's history in some ways too, the stuff that we don't remember quite as much. And you get to bring it forward and forth. Now this, if I'm not mistaken, this looks suspiciously like a boss battle.
It does, and that's the other thing we're showing. This is the first boss we've talked about, and if you're a Disney fan, you know it's inspired by Pete's Dragon, the film that Disney released in the 1970s. But more specifically, it's based on the float from Disney's Main Street Electrical Parade. If you've ever seen that, there's a float that's Elliot, the dragon from Pete's Dragon. That parade is no longer held at Disneyland, so pow, that ends up in Wasteland, and here he is. But the interesting thing is, he's a new kind of character for us in that he's part cartoon and part animatronic. That's something new for Disney Epic Mickey 2 as well. And so you have to figure out how to deal with this thing that's part toon, part robot. Where did it come from? How do you interact with it, and all that stuff. But the most important thing I think that's going on here is the player is getting to decide how to interact with this world. You can use paint, this blue stuff here, and in fact on the move, it's amazing. The aiming controls are totally precise, and the ball on the end lights up in the color that of the substance you're using. So if you're using paint like this player is, the ball turns blue, and if you're using thinner, which is the color, which is green, the ball turns green. So even if you're not watching the screen, I can tell what they're doing over there just by looking at the ball on the end of the move. But you get to decide. It's not like a normal boss battle in most games where you just decide, okay, here's the one way to do it. I have to do what the designer wanted me to do. This is about you deciding how you want to solve the problem of this boss.
So let's talk a little bit more about those animatronic enemies you were talking about. It sounds like Oswald's electric remote would go a long way in helping overcome some of them.
Oh yes, Oswald can shock anything animatronic. And it sort of stuns them for a second, which obviously, if Mickey's trying to do something to the cartoon parts of this character, helps a lot, because the guy's not moving around. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to interrupt myself. That's a little spatter. I don't know why. I am totally amused by the fact that inside this monstrous, fearsome thing is this silly little cartoon character. We're trying to introduce some humor into gaming here. Humor with a buzzsaw tail. Yeah, you want to stay out of the way of that. But yeah, so here you can see the second player is playing as Oswald and is shocking the animatronic boss, which is making it a little bit easier for Mickey to use his paint to try and paint in the sketchy parts that you can see.
So I think we're getting close to running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, what are you most personally excited about here? Is there a detail or a feature that you're the most thrilled to get in the game?
Yeah, there are a couple. I mean, obviously, two-player co-op is a big thing. It was really what I wanted to do in this game more than anything else. But we've got full voice in the game, and every character you encounter speaks, like it's really Mickey now, and it's really Donald, and now it's really Oswald. A game. We got to give Oswald a voice for the first time in history. You know, for a video game to be able to contribute to Disney's future while it's honoring Disney's past is just, it's the biggest thrill for me.
It is, and you know, another thing you reminded me, it's a musical.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. I'm a musical geek, I can't help it. So there are characters in this game that will break into song periodically and express how they're feeling by singing and to tell the story through song. I mean, it's a Disney game, how can you not have songs? So yeah, it's just the start of something big for musical gaming, I think.
And so I think we're just about out of time. When is Epic Mickey 2, The Power of Two, when is that going to come out on PS3?
Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of Two, shipping PS3, November 18th, 2012. An important date in Disney's history, but I'll let all your viewers figure that out for themselves.
Ah, challenge, all right. Well, excellent demo there. Thank you, Warren Spector. And stay tuned, we'll be back with more E3 Live.